Hey, welcome back. It's the Jarvcast. Just can't get enough of that Jarvcast. And it's the end of March. Another great month. I kicked off the month seeing one of my favorite artists, Alan Epley. He's the singer of Shiner, Life and Times. He just put out a solo record, and it's great. It's probably my favorite record this year, and very mellow and dark and heavy, but not in a metal way. But anyways, great show is at the Loose Cobra in Tolono, Illinois. And that's owned by Matt Talbot of Hum, one of my favorite groups. And I've been there a few times before, and so I was familiar with the place. And when I came in, I sat kind of by the slot machines, and I couldn't really see stage right. It's not really a stage. There is no stage there, so band's playing on the floor. So I couldn't see the guitar player on the right. And the end of the opening band was called the Tractor Kings. They were kind of country, and the singer kind of sounded like Bob Dylan. And I see as they're loading out, it's Matt Talbot on guitar. He was the lead guitar player. I didn't realize this until I see him loading at the end of the set. And I chatted real quick with Alan as he was walking by, and I always get nervous around these guys because they're just like my favorite artists. I mean, just like imagine your favorite bands, two of your favorite bands, and their singers are hanging out at a VFW, and you're sitting right there. Like, what would you say to them? Like, you know what I mean? Like that was like I get starstruck by these guys, and so I don't. Even though I've met Talbot and worked with him and stayed at his studio a couple times, and I still get nervous because I'm just like I'm such a big fan of Hum. Like they mean so much to me, and so I give him a space. And at the end of the show, he's just standing right next to me, and there's no one else around. And I notice, he's wearing a goat horse shirt. So I have to say something. I'm finally like, a nice goat horse shirt, man. He says thank you, and I bring up like, are you a fan of Soylent Green and Acid Bath? And he's like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And then it turned awkward because I say, well, I'm a huge Hum fan. I love you. And he just blushes and says, oh, thank you. And it's just like, God, why did I just told this guy that I loved him. But it's true. I love Hum so much. One of my favorite groups. I bet you've heard them, even if you don't know if you've heard them. They had a hit song called Stars. You'll still hear it on commercials or alternative radio stations. But all their albums are great. The new album's great. It's cool to see him playing in another band. And it was great to see Alan Epley. He basically came out and played the entire new record to perfection. And that was the show. And it was awesome. The album's called Everything. Highly suggest checking that out. And then the next night, I drove to St. Louis and saw a local show with Storm Ruler, a local black metal band, and it has Jesse of ex Scour fame on drums, and Derek of Scour playing bass live for him now. He actually played on their first record too. So it was good to go out and see Derek and Storm Ruler, and Played some pinball with Jesse and had dinner with Dee, and then saw Mark briefly. It was his birthday. Mark from Scour also at the show. But they sold out the Blueberry Hill. That's where Chuck Berry used to play monthly. Really cool bar restaurant in St. Louis. Honestly, if you ever go to St. Louis, that when you go to the Loop, it's one of the coolest places to go. Is the Blueberry Hill. See all the antique toys and just basically all the stuff that I had growing up, like the Michael Jackson doll and the wrestling figures, and they have that all displayed. And they have, like, all the old Barbies and all the way back to like Howdy Doody. Like they have everything there, and then the walls are covered with pictures with the owner and all these superstars, and really cool place. But it was just great to see. I mean, it holds like 350 people, and they sold it out. Extreme metal local bands in St. Louis are drawing in 350 people and selling out venues. That's amazing. I don't know if that's ever happened before. So good for them. And they're currently on tour with Cannibal Corpse and Dark Funeral in Europe. So that's huge. It's good to see some St. Louis boys doing it, and good to see Jesse out there doing it, and Big D handling the bass. Good for him. So yeah, that was a cool show. Good to see them. And then came down to Louisiana and saw Death to All with Suffocation and Nukem. Now the Nuki peeps, Nukem, they helped Scour out years ago. We did some shows together, and they were kind enough to let us use their practice space and gear, and really saved the day for us. And I believe I toured with Steve on was it Morbid Angel run one year, and so I've known the Nuki peeps for a while. It's good to see them. He had a funny little call out during the show, making sure I'm okay. Little funny moment. But yeah, it's a great show. The Suffocation was sick. Didn't have Frank, of course, but I guess that's the way it is now. Got to move on. Then you got That's All with Gene Hoglan and Stevie D. So that was a great show. Saw a lot of cool people there. Saw Zach from Strong Intention. Saw the singer Goat Whore. I had a guy come up, said, hey, we did a show recently with Nest. I was like, wow, cool. It's good to see the New Orleans scene. And speaking of Nest, we did announce our Zymergy Brewing festival. It's a death metal fest. It's in Wisconsin. Now it's called Zymurder Fest 2023. Death Metal Music Festival. Now you got Narcotic Wasteland headlining. That's Dallas's band. He used to be the singer for Nile. I guess you could say that's the classic era Nile. I do like the new version of Nile, though. I got Scott from the St. Louis area, and Scott Eames, and they had Julian from Florida, a pal I met on the 70,000 tons of metal cruise. He's now playing bass for him, which is really cool. Like, it's just a nice kid. He was kind of running the small crew of people we had building a stage, and this was no normal stage here. This was the largest stage ever built on a boat. ever. I was part of building it. I mean, we had cranes sending the stuff over the top, and it was just crazy, dangerous work. I was in over my head. Uh, those guys really work hard, and I worked hard too. But at the end of the day, I was like, "Geez, I didn't realize like a lot of lifting and you're climbing just dangerous stuff. Climbing up these giant, like hanging these giant banners and shit. Like it was hard work. But yeah, I got to know him, and now he's playing bass for now. So good for him. Yeah, other bands playing on this fest. You got Embryonic Autopsy, Gorgatron, Nest, of course. Then Sexual Atrocities. Now, those are some old pals. I've seen them play many times, and I see that Nest is playing after them, and yikes. You don't want to play after Sexual Atrocities. Hopefully, they won't completely trash the stage. No, they have fun on stage. They have like a party atmosphere. I don't want to say like the booze-ons where we're pouring beer everywhere, but I'm sure there will be some of that too. But hey, we'll clean it up. No big deal. Uh, love those guys. Have had great times with them many times. So I was very glad to see them on the show. I'm gonna disagree with the placement. I don't know why Nest is playing after them. I'll take it, I guess, but that's the way the cookie crumbles there. Uh, Pantheon, Forced Rot, Celestial Serpent, Dead Soul Symphony, and Iced Wrist. 10 bands. The big show. And it says it has sold out every year. Limited door sales will be available. Don't sleep on getting your pre-sale tickets. Brought to you by Vulgar Display of Podcast, Necro Productions, Midwest Metal Productions, Explorer, Menominee, I guess is the name of the city. Menominee. Yeah, that should be cool. Saturday, August 12th. Big show. We'll be announcing a show before that. Looks like it'll be early June. Looks like it'll be in New Orleans. I can tell you that much. But that should be announced soon. That's cool. Writing some new Nest recently. That's always fun. Yesterday was opening day in baseball. That's a big deal. You got the first time since the 60s where they had every team play. So I watched baseball all day. It was great. The first game was the Yankees. Saw Aaron Judge crush a home run. He hit like 62 last year. So that was cool. Cardinal game didn't quite turn out the way I was hoping, but it was a fun game to watch, back and forth. We ended up losing 10-9 to the Blue Jays, and we showed our offense is good. We can hang with anybody on that side, but we'll need to get the pitching together. It actually looked like we had the game in the bag in the ninth inning. We had our stud closer coming up, and it's kind of fell apart, but it's a good game. It's been a good month for baseball. I mean, if you watch the WBC, that's the World Baseball Classic. They do that every 4 years, and it's been messed up because of COVID. But they, every team, each team has is a different country. So you got Japan, you got Dominican Republic and Cuba, Mexico. United States, and it came down to the USA versus Japan for the final. And there was a bunch of great games leading up to that. And the cool thing about it was you see teammates playing against each other, and two of the best players in baseball are Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. And this Ohtani, he's a two-way player. He pitches and hits, and he's great at both. So it was a dream matchup to see them face each other in the bottom of the ninth when it was 3-2, and it all came down to that. And Ohtani struck out Trout for Japan to win the game. So it was a heartbreaking loss for U.S., but great game, great tournament, great series. It was a great opening day. Glad baseball's back. It's a great time for sports. NBA's coming towards the playoffs. Same with NHL. I'm going to my first NBA game on Tuesday. I'll go see the Pelicans. Zion probably won't be playing, but it'll still be cool to see my first NBA game. I grew up watching the Bulls on WGN, and it was great because back then that was on free antenna TV. I got TBS in too, where get to watch wrestling on and the Atlanta Braves on TBS, Atlanta Hawks. But yeah, first NBA game. Pumped for that. Pumped for a lot of upcoming. Got a bunch of cool concert tickets for New Orleans. I got The Cure, Depeche Mode, Duran Duran, and a bunch of cool shows coming up. Got next Friday's I Hate God and Goat Whore. Talking a lot of Goat Whore this month. But yeah, that'll be cool. What else in music? Yeah, that Power Trip Fest was announced. Not the band Power Trip. This is based off of that Desert Trip from a few years back, where it was like McCartney and Bob Dylan and Rolling Stones and all these cool. It was two headliners every night, and that's it. They no other bands each night, just two bands each night, and I guess that's what they're doing for this Power Trip. And it's Metallica and Tool and Iron Maiden and Guns N' Roses on the first night. Tool and Metallica's the Sunday, and then in the middle there was AC/DC and Ozzy. So it's cool that AC/DC's back. Great to see Ozzy doing a show, of course. I saw Metallica there in Indio, and that's when they had the big four, and they played Orion for the first time, so that was cool. And then Dave Mustaine joined him on stage for Am I Evil, so that was really cool. But yeah, I'd imagine that's going to be a couple $100 a day for that show. And it'd be cool if they added, some underground bands, or even just more bands throughout the day and made it a whole thing, I guess. I don't know. So there's not a lot of, in the U.S., fests where you got the big dogs and then some underground. You got, I was talking to Mark about this yesterday, about the Milwaukee Metal Fest, how they got some of the big bands on there mixed with the underground. The Putrid Pile and Lamb of God on the same show. I mean, Anthrax, Suicidal. There's a lot of cool underground fests, a lot of great ones. But very rarely do they have the big dogs on there. And yeah, they could have made that a really crazy, it's maybe just too much, but that's already pretty crazy there at the Power Trip. And if I was the band Power Trip, I'd be pretty pissed off. I'd probably start my own fest called Guns N' Roses Fest. But That's the way it goes. Hopefully they get a cut of money or something. Sue them motherfuckers. But yes, it's been a great month. I'll see you next month. I'll tell you all about the NBA game and talk some more baseball, about the big shows. And see you next month on the Jarvcast. Later on.